You know, Volkswagen has done this sort of thing before, right? I think back to the earlier part of my career in the late 90s when the Beetle came back as the new Beetle. If you weren't living then, I'll tell you what, it was quite the phenomenon. And now they are bringing back another iconic nameplate, so to speak. Think of the microbus of the 50s and 60s, the hippie van, and now it is called the 2025 ID Buzz. Looking absolutely phenomenal. I tell you what, I love what Volkswagen has done with the design here. It harkens back to the past, but it is fully modernized, and this time it comes to us as an electric vehicle. That is correct. An EV, a halo for the brand, starting at around $60,000 and priced here at nearly $70,000. The ID Buzz. The ID is Volkswagen's sub-brand of electric vehicles. And the Buzz, well, it's kind of a cool nod to Buzz, I guess. So, you may recall that this one was seen, I want to say, sometime around 2017. I remember sitting in one of the concepts, I believe it was at the New York Auto Show. So, it's taken a long time for Volkswagen to bring this to market. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, but it's finally here. And I'm glad that it is. Now, it's not perfect. It's not trying to be. It's got a lot of coolness to it, right? You feel special. Everyone's looking at it. It's the talk of the town. But in terms of its minivan, quote unquote, versatility, there are some things that are a bit lacking. So we'll get into that in just a second. The oversized VW emblem, I absolutely love it. This little part here does open up to give you access to some of the electric components and to put some wiper fluid in there. So there are 3 trim levels. You can get this with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Like I said, this is an all-wheel drive 4Motion model. Rear-wheel drive at heart with another electric motor up here at the front, over 330 horsepower. And 0 to 60 in this thing in about 6 seconds. So it's got that EV quickness we all love about electrics. So we'll head inside. Let me just give you a peek here. So this is the inside. Very, very spacious. Now this one has second row captain's chairs. You can get a bench seat for the second row. This one does not have the pano roof. That is optional. And there is a tremendous amount of volume. So everybody's going to have a good seat and nobody's going to complain. Now, it's kind of a weird step up into this. It is very wide and it's a bit tall. And if you look down here, you can see there's a little step here to get up. So you actually feel like you're driving a bus at times. And when I first got in it, I didn't realize that there are armrests not only here on the right, but there's another one here on the left. And that's important just because when I was first driving, I was like, boy, that's a really long reach for my arm. But in fact, there it is. But you know, it's just kind of weird, right? Because then when you go to get out of the vehicle, you've got to push it up and out of the way. So the first thing, of course, you notice about the ID Buzz is that you have this tremendous commanding view of the road with this huge windshield, again, with that whole bus driver persona. But you also notice that there are almost no buttons. So much like the ID4, this is VW's vision of what the electric car future is, right? Very few distractions, very few buttons, and pretty much everything is here on the screen. The only buttons you'll find are ones for the sliding doors on both sides. And then over here, you have some buttons for the lighting. And over here on the door, the controls for the windows and mirrors and such. But other than that, you're doing everything through this screen. So that has perhaps been my most frustrating moment in the ID Buzz, in that it's hard to get around this. I understand they've improved it a little bit, but I mean, just trying to find easy access to the around view camera, the surround view camera, can be absolutely maddening. Some of the radio controls are really wonky. They've put so much in here that it'll make you, it'll have you begging for a few extra buttons. I guarantee you that. It's not terrible. I'm on day 6 with it. I'm getting used to certain things, but you know, this is what happens when buttons go away and everything is buried somewhere and you have to look for it. So now it does have a voice assistant, so you can say things like hello ID, hello ID, there you are. Tune to 104.5 FM,
frequency 104.5 FM.
So it's kind of like the Google Voice Assistant or any of these other manufacturers. It works pretty well. It uses ChatGPT, I believe, as long as you have a certain level of subscription here. So far, so good with that. And then in front here, and of course, this is one of those electric vehicles that you just get into, right? You don't have to press the start-stop button to get in and out to activate that. So it'll just, come on, go off when you leave. No worries there. And then this is the little screen ahead of you here for the driver. This is another thing that kind of bothers me in that it's very, very basic. There's really not much to go through here. Of course, if I belted myself in, you could see a little bit more, but there's really just not much there. I wish this was more robust. Now, there is a head-up display that you probably can't see. Not bad, certainly bright enough and big enough to give out pertinent information, but I wish this was a little more detailed. I like to see more things regarding EV in here. I like to watch my charge status and look at different things that are using energy, and there's some of that in here, but by and large, again, it's kind of basic. Now, right now, it looks like I'm at 69 miles on a 63% charge. This one here with the all-wheel drive is rated at just over 230. If you get the rear-wheel drive, you'll be over 240. But as is the case with a lot of EVs, especially in the summertime here, I've been getting well over that, closer to 250 plus here on a full charge. Now, the charge port is in the back. And with a vehicle of this size, if you're going to be charging in your garage, that's something to consider. So you'll probably be backing this in to charge it wherever your charge cable is, but that's what I would have to do in my garage to really make it work best. Charging 200 kilowatts is the intake rate. This one has a 100 or about a 100 kilowatt hour battery, a little bit less than that. So it can charge from 10 to 80% in the typical 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah. So the charging stuff is all about the same, but I have to say that at least for me in the year 2025, especially in a vehicle that is probably destined to see some family use for like longer trips, right? I would like to see this closer to 300 miles. I mean, in my mind, and everybody's going to be different, I get it, but just for me personally, 300 is pretty much the cutoff point for me now in considering my next EV. My Kona is rated at 258. It routinely gets well above that in the warm weather months. So this, the range on this, that would concern me a little bit. So we'll go over some of the fun things in here. You've got some cup holders here that fold out. Right here is actually the wireless charger for your phone. So that jams in there. That's kind of cool, holds it in place. This here in between is called the Buzz Box. So at first I was like, dang, this doesn't really have much space, but it does have this really cool built-in, I guess it's a bottle opener you can take out of here. That's kind of neat. And then this, I believe, you can actually use as an ice scraper, and you can move these around and divvy the space up. And then in the front here, what did I do? Well, in the front here, there's a little more storage in here. I probably did something to make it not work. And then if you want to, you can actually press this button here, and like some other minivans from different companies, I've seen in the past, you can actually pick up this console and slide it right between these two second row seats right here. So you can pick it up and move it. And then there is deeper storage in the back here. So you do have a little slide out drawer. It's kind of cool. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on out back. The thing is huge inside, like I said, but this is another little problem. So you open up the rear hatch here, and it's unique. So you've got this shelf system, which I actually took out to mess with for a little bit. And below this little shelf system are these two foldable little cargo bins. You know, that's kind of cool. But look what's below that. See, if you want to remove these, you can pull these tabs right here, and that would take these third row seats totally out of the vehicle. So you're not getting anything cool like a Chrysler, you know, stow and go system, which is unfortunate. But if you wanted to remove these, you can. But yeah, so this is this little shelf system. And so when you do fold these, you will get like a mostly flat area extending up into the second row. So this is the cargo situation. Don't love it, but it's, again, quirky, just like the vehicle itself. And look at this. Isn't this great? This is an actual window here. So here we are now in the second row. Again, very, very spacious. Tons of leg room. And then, of course, these seats, you know, actually, this one's broken. Somebody before me did this. It wasn't me. But the seats do slide and recline. And they are heated back here. And then you've got your little window up here, which, because I am no longer in the driver's seat, the vehicle is no longer on, and so they're not going to open. But anyway, this slides open here. I just think that's a really, really neat feature. And then, you know, you've got a little like cell phone holder here in the back and some little storage pockets. And again, here's the buzz box. So you can move that back here if you want to put a console in the middle. And then for the third row, I could right now just literally walk right through the middle to get back here and get these headrests up. I mean, adult friendly, absolutely. All day, no problems whatsoever. Tons of leg room. The vehicle, I've noticed, is it's quiet, but it kind of reminds me of that Winnebago we took to Disney years ago, in that it's like a big box. And so when you hit a bump, you kind of feel the weight of that battery, and it kind of makes things shudder inside a little bit. So it's a little rattly. I don't mean that necessarily like it's not assembled well. It's just that it's, you know, a big box. And so you kind of feel things when you hit bumps. All right. And then to get into that third row from here, you can just slide these right from the second row seats themselves, or if you want to tumble these, there you go. And then these pull up too. These release, and you can push these forward. But yeah, space is certainly not going to be a big deal at all. As a matter of fact, it's going to be your friend in the ID Buzz. Very, very nice. The drive is great. There's several drive modes to it. There's like comfort and sport. There's a traction mode. The one thing about the one pedal in this that I don't love, and again, I was kind of looking for it when I first got in it, and then I realized, oh yeah, I'm in a Audi Volkswagen product. So again, I'm just putting my foot on the brake to start it. Right here, you would go from drive or B, and B is one pedal, but it's not really one pedal. It's kind of like, it's not going to take the vehicle to a full stop, which I like. I like having different settings for that. I like using that in city situations sometimes, but you're not going to find that here. What you will find though up here are heated and cooled front seats with massage. There are massage programs on these. Memory settings. So there are a lot of really, really nice features here. 70,000 is going to be a turnoff for a lot of people. I understand that. It's very expensive. And again, it's being presented as a halo vehicle. So this is somebody who has an emotional attachment to this time period or this vehicle back in the day. They're willing to pay for it. It's electric. It's cool. You're paying for the coolness factor here. If you want a super easy Swiss Army knife kind of family vehicle with sliding doors, I mean, you could get yourself a Toyota Sienna, you could get yourself a Chrysler Pacifica, a Honda Odyssey, a Kia Carnival, and you'll have a vehicle that is going to suit the family with kids better. It's going to be more versatile. It's going to be easier to use. But this isn't exactly trying to be that. This is its own thing. And for what it is, I actually kind of like it. I think it's very cool that Volkswagen takes risks like this and puts out vehicles that aren't meant to be sold to the masses, but for those who get them are going to have an absolute blast. So 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. A really enjoyable experience as long as you are okay with the price and its various quirks. For Test Drive Now, I'm Steve Hammes.